With everything changing so rapidly in society today, it's easy to think that the way we lead must also change quickly. And if you're a younger pastor, you might even wonder what principles of the past still apply in church leadership today. Well, in this episode, we're going to look at 4 timeless principles to help you grow as a young leader in ministry. Stay tuned.
Hey, got to tell you, back in the day when I was in my 20s and 30s, yes, that was a day or two ago, I had a couple of guys, I just kind of stumbled into this, where these guys were CEOs in our community in Des Moines, Iowa. They both were believers. They both loved the Lord, and they were in the secular environment in large corporations. One was, they're both named Bob. So Bob Hauser was with the CEO of the Principal Group, and Bob Plunk was the president of Preferred Risk, which is now Guide One Insurance. So every year I'd give those guys a call. Hey, Bob, Dick Hardy here, and they knew of me. Bob Plunk, we were a client of theirs, and Bob Hauser, just because of the community, we knew each other. And can we go grab breakfast or lunch? And these guys always seem to want to do lunch. I'm a breakfast guy, but we did lunch. And I'd go out with these guys, and literally we would just talk. Now, they were generally in their 50s. So they're generally about 20, 25 years ahead of me. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking to them as executives in corporations that are way bigger and different than the church I was in. Yeah. But I learned so much stuff. Yeah. Why? Because I watched them lead. And no one went into those conversations thinking, okay, I got to learn this, right? Or I have to learn this. But just in dialogue, I would learn things. I remember sitting with a guy named Del Kramer, who really felt like a mentor to me in those years. Mm-hmm. And just, we would walk construction sites together. We would drive someplace together. And just listening to him talk, it was unbelievable value. I will tell you, they didn't contact me. I had to contact them. Mm-hmm. And that's an absolutely critical part of what a young leader needs to do to be better, is you've got to connect with people. So we want to jump into some things today that we think will help you as you're moving forward and growing your own leadership skills. Yeah. The very first thing is to do just what I did. Find a mentor, but I'm going to suggest to you, don't call them that. So, I'm not calling up Jonathan and saying, hey, Jonathan, would you be my mentor? Yeah. Number one, that feels mechanical. And the kind of people you want to be with, they will invest in you because they want to invest in young leaders, but they want it to make sense relationally. So now you could tell them, hey, I want to sit with you because you're a day or two ahead of me, which is a nice way to say you're old and I'm not. But you want to be with those guys or gals, and you have to initiate it. You want to meet with them maybe once a year, twice at maximum. Don't abuse the privilege of meeting with someone who's a senior leader in an organization. Mm-hmm. When you're with them, maximize it, right? But don't think that every month you're going to get to go hang out.
Well, what if they offer?
Certainly if they offer. Okay. Not going to happen very often. Don't assume that you can just tap into their time all the time. Yeah. Okay. Now, I will say too, when you meet with them, you've got to be prepared with things that you want to ask them. Sharp CEOs will throw things to you, and it will feel good when this chief executive is asking you questions and they're probing and everything. Well, that's the reason they're a CEO. Yeah. Because they know to ask questions. You need to act that way, and you're firing the questions back and saying, listen, Bob, this is not about, I want to talk to you about you.
Yeah, and I think one of the things you can do is have your questions written down or typed up. Yeah. I mean, I remember back in high school and college time when I would meet with different pastors, ask them questions. You'd even sit down with me and you'd help me. Okay, well, what are the questions I need to ask these guys? Just because you're going in, you want to maximize their time and you want to have a purpose behind what you're doing. And that's really helpful.
It's good. Second one, Jonathan. What do you got?
So the second principle here we have to pay attention to is do regular self-examination. Okay, do regular self-examination. So here's what we got to do. We have to look in the mirror. And as a young leader, it's important to constantly be looking in the mirror and not in a negative self-criticism way, but more in a how can I get better way.
Yeah.
In a way that says, okay, this is the opportunities I have before me. This is what I'm doing in ministry. This is where we're at in life. And now how can I get better as an individual? And so maybe that means, you're looking at your life and saying, okay, you know what? I'm not really reading a lot of leadership books right now. Well, then start, or whatever it might be. You have to be willing to look in the mirror. And part of that is developing your why. And this is something that you hear about the concept of the why a lot, but you don't hear about people talking about your individual why. Why are you doing what you're doing? Is it because you felt like God spoke to you at one point in life and you knew that you were supposed to be doing this? Well, if that's your why, then you got to go back to that. And you have to remember that. Yeah. But sometimes I think people go through life and they're just, they're working in ministry, they're, pastoring people, and then they wake up one day and they say, well, why am I doing this? And how did I get here? How did this all happen? And so that's why it's important to be examining your life regularly, consistently, so you have this greater purpose of what God wants you to be doing. And it's better to do it as a younger leader than it is to wait till you're in your 40s and 50s and you're like, oh man,
why am I doing this? Yeah. Did I just waste a bunch of years?
Right, exactly. So figure out that why. Right on the heels of that, the third principle I think we want to mention today is to be self-aware. We all have blind spots. We all have areas of weakness in our life. And if we're not self-aware, then those things just manifest themselves all the time. And we have to be careful not to let those things manifest themselves, not to let those things be known and express that through our leadership. And it's easy. I don't know if you've seen this in your life, but I know that I've seen leaders that I've been following, their weakness. People I've worked for over the years. They've got weaknesses. They have blind spots too. And it's easy to identify that in other people, but sometimes it's harder to identify it in your own life. And so that's why sometimes it's important to have someone close to you who you are 100% candid with and open with, and you're allowing them to speak into your life. I mean, it could be your spouse. It could be a close friend. Just someone that you have that can say, hey, I see this, and this appears to be a blind spot. You've been that to me, where you're like, saying, hey, have you thought about this? And obviously that's a dad to son type thing that you're able to do. But the fact is you have to have someone who can do that.
Exactly.
And so if it's not a father, then it's someone else. But you want to make sure that you have that self-awareness just as you lead in life.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great third point. The fourth point, the final one we want to mention to you, and this is not exhaustive list, friend. There'll be many more. But the fourth one we want to talk to you about today is to think big. Mm-hmm. Don't think small. So you're a young leader, and young leaders tend to gravitate to thinking big anyway. That's good. It's as you get older, you tend to start shrinking down. Don't allow that to happen.
Right.
Always think big. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, when I tell you the names of Edison, Rockefeller, Jobs, Gates, Musk, what is it about those names that says small to you? Nothing. Yep. Absolutely nothing, because they thought big. Yeah. They fired out big. Yeah. And if you're a young leader, you're pastoring a church, God's giving you something in your heart, think big, express big, and you're going to see great things happen.
That's right.
As a result of that.
That's
so
right.
Let's do a little recap here of these four. Number one, things for you to do as a young leader is to find a mentor, but don't call them that. Number two, do regular self-examination. Number three, be self-aware. And number four, think big. When you do these things, you're going to see great things happen. And I want to mention to you on that second point that Jonathan was referring, the self-examination, one of the things, if you haven't done this, I really encourage you to take the 5-day leadership challenge. Because in day 2, we talk about the law of the mirror. Yeah. We talk about self-examination. It's a free resource for you. Just put in Leaders.Church/challenge, and you can jump right into the challenge. Day 1, you can do it today. Again, Leaders.Church/challenge, and take the 5-day leadership challenge. You'll find it to be great value to you. Certainly, we'd encourage you to subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you're watching this. We've loved loved having you, and we believe there are great days ahead for you as a young leader. Take these things to heart, and you're going to see God do amazing things in your life. Anything to add to this, Jonathan?
That's it. No, we're good.
We're good to go. Make it a great one today, and be blessed.